The extremely high-stakes California governor's race is intensifying with exactly 1 month until the primary. 8 candidates took the stage at Pomona College this week in one of the final debates in the open primary where all parties compete against each other. New polling by CBS and YouGov shows the top 2 contenders neck and neck. 16% of likely voters say they'd support Republican former Fox News host Steve Hilton, and 15% back Democrat Tom Steyer, a billionaire and former hedge fund manager. Tom Steyer joins us now. Tom, lots of ground to cover here. It's good to see you back on the show, but this is such a crowded field. And quite honestly, it's changed a lot since Eric Swalwell has dropped out. Talk to me about how you plan to break away from the pack.
Well, Eamon, the biggest problem that Californians have is they can't afford to live in California anymore. And that goes to a number of costs, starting with housing very much. That's the biggest bill for almost everybody. But it goes to healthcare. It goes to electricity costs, where the electric monopolies in California charge twice as much as the national average. And now it goes to gasoline costs very much. And in every one of those areas, I have a plan to change it because these are costs that have been building up over an awful lot of years. And
how do you plan on changing the gas? How do you plan on changing the gas prices, for example, as the governor of California that is caused by a war and that the president started?
Well, to be clear, the price of gas has gone up in California about $1.50. The cost of the gasoline to California has gone up $0 because American oil and gas companies aren't spending a penny more to develop that oil and gas. What we have had in the past and what is still on the books in California is a windfall profits tax, saying that when oil and gas companies get windfalls as a result of international events, in this case, a war started by our president, but still windfall profits, we have the right to take that money and send it directly back to Californian citizens. And that's what I propose to do.
Tom, of all of the candidates in the race, you arguably have the most ambitious housing plan. The housing goals, I should say, that you want to build 1 million houses in 4 years. But you've offered relatively few specifics on how you would reach that goal, other than talking about having union-built manufactured housing, which is an industry that, as I understand it, doesn't really exist yet. Meanwhile, you have L.A. only issuing something like 7,800 new housing permits last year. San Francisco, I think, issued fewer than 3,000. Those are numbers that are not going to easily get you to 1 million new units built around the state. So how do you actually get cities to build?
Okay, so let me say this. The problem that you're alluding to is the fact that for a lot of cities and counties, issuing building permits and allowing that developers to build either new single-family or multifamily units is, in effect, an unfunded mandate to deliver services to the people who are going to live in those houses or apartments for education and healthcare, and they don't have the money to do it. And that's why they've been pushing back, and that's why they've not been issuing permits. Let me say this. I am the only person in this race, the only person running for governor who has an actual revenue plan. In my case, on day one, I'd call a special election and close a corporate real estate tax loophole worth over $20 billion to California that would go to the cities and counties. So that now, instead of having an unfunded mandate to take care of the people in those new houses or apartments, they now have a funded mandate.
So just to be clear, you think that the only obstacle for permitting more housing is about tax revenue, so insufficient tax revenue, as opposed to, sort of NIMBYist efforts to restrict the building of new housing, which, as I understand it, is really a problem, or other kinds of regulatory burdens that might make it more difficult.
I didn't say that it was let me clarify then. I didn't say it was the only problem, but it's the overwhelming problem. And having that much money to be able to deliver also changes the relationship between the governor and the cities and counties. And let me say this. Today, I was out in the East Bay talking with the governor of one of the cities there, talking to him about this plan. And honestly, this guy was gushing. He was so happy to hear what I was saying. Just so you know, he was agreeing with everything I said. And I know, I'm not dumb. I know that there's such a thing as NIMBYism. But I also know that the people in California are at a place where everybody knows that this is in crisis. And everybody knows that as a state, we need to follow a plan just like mine. And so I will say that when I've talked to county commissioners, when I've talked to mayors and explained what I'm trying to do, they are thrilled. And let me say this too. The reason other people aren't saying it is they are scared to go out there and say they'll do it. No one else has a revenue plan. This is it's not there are 5 steps to my plan. You can go on tomsteyer.com and see my housing plan. But this is a critical element of it, and it's completely different from everybody else who's running for governor.
Tom, let's talk campaign finance, and a topic that you talk about frequently. You say that billionaires have too much power in American politics, and you do not hesitate to say that you will tax billionaires more in the state of California. But what I want to ask you is, you've been able to put, at least according to some estimates, over $100 million into your campaign in this primary. But the school teacher that wanted to run, the firemen, they would not have the same resources. And it does distort, as to your point, it distorts the playing field. Do you support a cap on how much candidates can self-fund?
I support a complete change to the way we fund elections in the United States of America. And I believe that Citizens United is a terrible thing. But let me say this. I am the only billionaire on the ballot, but I'm not the only billionaire in this race. The billionaires and the big corporations in the state of California are spending big. They're spending big to support other candidates, and they're spending tens of millions of dollars to fund independent expenditures to stop me from winning. They are scared that I'm actually going to do the things that I say I'm going to do and stand up for working Californians. And every dollar they're spending is against me. And every dollar they're spending to support other candidates, you can look and see. This is a place where the reason I'm spending my money is I'm not taking anyone else's money. And that means when I say this is my housing plan, it means I'm doing it for the California people. When I say I'm for single payer, that means I think that's the right thing for California people. When I take on the electric monopolies or the oil companies, I'm thinking about the people of California who are suffering because they can't make ends meet. And no one else is standing up to those companies. And I think, honestly, you can look and see some of the other leading candidates like Javier Becerra are taking max contributions from those companies. So I think in this case, I'm not the only billionaire in this race. I'm just the only billionaire on the ballot.
But so those billionaires think that their cause is noble and right. So what makes your principle more right than theirs necessarily when it comes to how you use your money? And what's the separation in being able to, just because you can do it, does it mean it's the right thing to do?
Well, your initial statement was they think their cause is noble and right. I don't think that's true, to be honest. I think that they think their cause is self-serving. I think there's a completely different question here. I believe, look, my whole campaign is built around shared prosperity, that we're an incredibly successful state in so many ways in terms of GDP per capita, in terms of growth. California is booming. We also have the highest percentage of people in poverty. And I'm saying, look, I don't want to do anything to compromise our success. I don't want to do anything to compromise our prosperity. But this is not right when we have 12 trillionaires and 40 million people who can't make rent. That's just not right. And for people who are pushing back on that statement, I don't accept that they think that what they're doing is just and right. I think what they're doing is standing up for themselves.
Tom Steyer, thank you for being with us tonight.